Welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCall. DT is where you're listening. You're watching on Facebook Live on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. All of it is inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios right here for you with 5 different locations: 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, where we'll be tomorrow at 324 West Water Street in downtown Syracuse, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital, and their newest location on 208 North Townsend Street in Syracuse, New York. They also have the mobile cafe that will come straight to your location, be it your neighborhood or your place of business. And, of course, they have local delivery that will bring all of your Cafe Kubal favorites straight to you. And if you're in Onondaga County, you do not pay a delivery fee. So, Cafe Kubal doing all they can to be where you are and to be all over Syracuse for wherever you are while you're out and about doing your thing. So whether they're coming to you or you're going to them, they're making it easy, and they're giving us great products that we love, including the DT Special, which is my pumpkin spiced chai with almond milk. And I think the last time that Julian was on the show, I refused to tell him because I hadn't announced it yet. So Julian's here with the Midweek Blitz. We do it every single Wednesday between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com is what's popping. We're bringing you our thoughts on college football, maybe a little bit of the NFL as well, and, of course, our thoughts on Syracuse. The Midweek Blitz this week follows Syracuse in a bye week after they got their first win of the season against Georgia Tech. So with that being said, we're going to bring in Julian in just a second. Hour number 2 will be a new video, as it always is, for Fantasy Football Week 4 advice from Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, and, of course, myself, Dan Tortora of WakeUpCallDT.com, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. With that being stated, let's bring in Mr. Whigham here. And Julian, what do you think? Pumpkin spiced chai. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm doing. What do you think?
I am 100% for it, because I am a pumpkin spice fiend.
Okay.
I love it, man. It's my favorite drink of the season, so to hear that, now I got to connect someone in Syracuse. I got to come up and try it, because pumpkin spice is my go-to during this time of the year. I share it with everyone I know. I bring my mom one. She doesn't like it. I'm sick. I give it to my friends. They've all loved it. So it is my favorite go-to drink, especially during the morning this time of the year.
Awesome. So pumpkin spice chai. We got one with Julian's name on it right here from Cafe Kubal. And the great thing about it is, you know, their pumpkin spice concoction, what they make with their spices and their, you know, their syrup and whatnot, they're making that all right there at Cafe Kubal. So it's got its own unique flavor. I can't describe it in connection to any other type of chai. It stands on its own, and then when you add the pumpkin spice to it, it's just absolutely incredible. So when you come up here, we're going to have to get you one.
I'm all for it. I love it.
He's ready. Whigham is ready. All right, so Wiggs, I got to ask you before we go anywhere. We're talking about it off the air. Do you watch any reality shows? Because people don't know this, and this is the first time I'm announcing this, and it's such a long title that I don't even want to say it, but I've been watching 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. And so you're supposed to get married in 3 months, which I can tell you from being married at one time that sometimes in 2 years you got to, see the red flags or red banners, as some of them are. You need to see them. So I don't know if 90 days is enough time. I mean, I guess every million that it doesn't work out, maybe it works out with 1 or 2. But I'm watching 90 Day Fiancé, and I blame Evan and Rudy for this. So you guys know who you are because they're the ones that watched it first. Do you have a reality show guilty pleasure that you watch?
In the past, I'm trying to think of what I used to. I haven't watched a reality show, I think, since high school. Was it like Laguna Beach?
Okay.
But that was like high school. You just more interested in the girls in the actual show. So I don't think I've seen a reality show since then. But I've heard multiple people suggest 90 Day Fiancé as a wild show to catch. To me, I've always this is a setup for failure. You get 90 days, and like you said, you can't see the red flags. So you're just in there about to catch an L either way. Either you dodge them and feel like you missed out, or you take them and end up catching all the red flags in the back end of the show. So yeah. I feel like either way, these guys and girls have set themselves up. But I've been hearing 90 Day Fiance suggested at least 3 or 4 times, so I may have to check that one out. It's my first time back to reality TV.
I'm gonna tell you, it's a treacherous place. You know what I mean? Like, and you and I have talked about, you know, stuff. We've joked about it, stuff that I've been through and whatnot. It does make me feel a little bit better because my dude Big Ed is wilding out always. But like, I mean, I'm watching some of this stuff and I'm just like, you know what I mean? And you and I have talked about it before, how Soulja Boy said that, you know, Drake is stealing his stuff. There's a guy on the show in Nigeria whose name is spelled a little bit different, but he calls himself Soulja Boy. So, I mean, I'm sitting here going, you know, Soulja Boy's worried about Drake, but, you know, he should really be worried about other Soulja Boy. So, I'm just, dude, it's like, it's a crazy show, but it does help me kind of take a step back, take a little breath, and find some peace. So I can honestly tell you that, you know, if you've been through some interesting relationships like your boy Dan has, it's always good to watch a show like that and go, oh, so there's other people that feel like they're gonna get killed by this person. You know, and these people went all across the country, you know, like, or all across the world, you know, they went all across the world and whatnot. Like, you know, I didn't do that. I had the respect of finding the crazy people in my backyard, an hour or two away. There's a state that I won't mention that's got an offer for me. Doesn't matter if it's north, middle, or south of this state. This entire state has put a big L on my board. So, you know, if I'm running for president, I can't say the name of the state. I won't do it. But people know the name of the state. But, you know, and I got to give a big ups to Florida because Florida hasn't dogged me yet. So I love you. I love you, Florida. Let's go. That's my second home. So appreciate Florida. But no, this show is crazy. There's one guy on the show who spent over $300,000 traveling to the Ukraine. What did he say? He went 20 times. He's talked to over 1,000, like on this, you go on this site, I guess. I don't do this stuff, so I have no idea. But you go on this site, and you pay to talk to a woman. And so whether they like you or not, you pay for it. And then he goes to Kiev in Ukraine, and he tries to meet these people. And he had like a relationship, he thought, with this one woman that he paid to talk to for 7 years. And then he asked her to get engaged. Apparently she said yes. She's barely kissed him, like nothing else. And she's not talking to him. She's still on the site taking money from other guys. And this one, and Big Ed, who's screwing up all over the place, he's laughing. He's going, wait, my man. He's like, this girl's on the sites? Yeah. And she barely kissed you? Yeah. And then he's like, well, I bought her an iPhone, but she can't use it because of her nails. And Ed's like, he's like, her nails? You know, I mean, the show, and then the guy's freaking out. But I'm looking at this poor soul. This guy's 60 years old. And he thinks that this woman's in a relationship with him. She thinks that he loves him, or he thinks that she loves him, and all this stuff. And you're just watching this, and you're going, dude, like, this is, you know, I haven't gone fishing in a while, but I know when I catch a catfish. You know what I'm saying? So.
We got to give these old guys some schooling, man. This happens way too often. You would think in 2020 guys would catch up, like that. You don't want to go down that route, but yeah. Every year it seems like we hear these stories. It's sad, man.
It's crazy. So, you know, that leads me into a perfect segue. Syracuse won over against Georgia Tech, but Syracuse got that done. I had to bring it up this morning. It was something on my mind. You know what? After watching the debate last night, I legit, first and foremost, I'm happy I don't have a stomach ulcer. I'm happy I was able to sleep last night. I got to speak to Jesus after the show. God knows that I'm happy I woke up this morning. You know, I don't know what's worse, watching the reality show or watching that reality show, hoping that one's fake and maybe 90 Day is true. I have no idea. But at the end of the day, no matter who you're voting for, just like Alien vs. Predator, no matter who wins, we all lose. That was their premise. That's how I feel. That's why I want to run for president in 2024. And, you know, so, and with everything shut down, I'm going to have to announce my candidacy in Florida because I know that they'll be open no matter what. So,
there you go.
What's life like down in Florida for you, Mr. Julian Whigham, seeing your Syracuse team, you know, in the place where oranges grow in a bountiful way. You got to see the Orange win while you were down there in some pretty awesome weather. What were your thoughts on this game against Georgia Tech?
Yeah, so I was very surprised to see Syracuse come out and play the way they did, and two, I was again proud of the defense. One, offense came out looking much better on every single layer. Offensive line being able to run block, pass block, giving the running backs opportunities to gain some yards, protecting the quarterback enough to look downfield and make some throws. Tommy DeVito starting to finally look like what we thought he would always look like. Receivers catching the ball. I mean, just every layer of this offense, every layer of the defense just looked good to me, and I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think that they would come out firing the way they did. I didn't think that the defense would come out making as many plays as they did. Cisco went out in warm-ups, and I'm thinking, oh, shoot. And that was just the other thing. You said I was in Florida. I was actually in the city this weekend for a friend of mine's birthday, and we're sitting there watching the Syracuse game. I'm trying to brag about Cisco, and I'm like, well, what's going to happen to this guy? And I'm like, well, and then so I couldn't even get to show off our best player, but it was good to see Syracuse look the way they did. One, because you were so worried those first 2 weeks after DeVito not looking great, that offensive line not looking too great, but then all of a sudden seeing them at their best, or at least playing at a much higher level than we had seen the first 2 weeks. So it's very encouraging. And then considering that they have a bye week to go over all the good things that they did and see all that tape and self-scout, and then they've got 2 games, I think it's Duke and Liberty coming up, who I think are both matchups that they can win. There's a really high chance for them to continue to improve and come out of these first 5 games of theirs with a winning record. So there's a lot of opportunity, and I'm looking forward to what the rest of the season brings for Syracuse.
Yeah, speaking here with Julian Whigham inside of our segment, Midweek Blitz, that we have for you every midweek on Wednesdays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, giving you our thoughts on Syracuse college football and the greater sports world, and happy to be here with Julian, who played for Syracuse. Julian, we look back at this Georgia Tech game, and I said going into the game that the catalysts for Georgia Tech were Jeff Sims and Jahmyr Gibbs. And now Jeff Sims, their quarterback, I said, listen, he turns the ball over. He's throwing 2 interceptions a game, 2 against UCF, 2 against Florida State. We all know how bad Florida State has been so far. So, I said, this is a guy who throws picks. Syracuse is a team that creates those opportunities and gets those picks. They end up capitalizing on that and doubling him up and taking him from 2 to 4 in the game. Not only from 2 to 4, 4 interceptions from 4 different players, and on top of that, Andre Cisco didn't even play, and 2 of the guys on Syracuse's team had never had an interception before. Jihad Carter having his first career interception, and Robert Hanna as well. So a lot of big moments for Syracuse in the interception game and turning the ball over and giving it back to their offense. And then Jahmyr Gibbs did get to 100 yards, but Syracuse didn't make him look as good as they've made other running backs look in history. So I can say that, they did some good things to somewhat, at times, quiet or at least slow down Jahmyr Gibbs, and they attacked Jeff Sims and didn't make Jeff Sims look all that pretty out there on the field as a dual-threat quarterback. So my 2 biggest concerns for Syracuse they were able to do, as far as what they needed to shut down defensively. And then offensively, you mentioned it. He threw 2 pretty good balls in the game that were memorable. The one to Taj Harris where Taj had to chase it down. That was in front of me. The great thing about being in the Dome and with like nothing else going on and it being quiet is I heard Taj catch this ball. I heard like when it hit his hands, I heard, that snap. And I thought it was awesome because he chased it down, he reached out for it, he got under it, he stumbled into the end zone. I give Taj a lot of credit for that. It was almost perfect timing. Taj was able to get under it and do his thing. And then, the Nykeem Johnson catch from Tommy DeVito, it was just a perfect ball. There was 2 defenders trying to close in on Nykeem. It came right through the seam perfectly, hit him right in the hands, right in the chest, in stride, and into the end zone. So, Tommy DeVito, credit to him for those. Credit to the offensive line, who only allowed 1 sack in the game after allowing 7 against North Carolina and 7 against Pittsburgh. And then, outside of that offensively, the fact that Sean Tucker, that they ran the ball. On the first series, they ran the ball. On the second series, they ran the ball. Man had 100 yards in the first half, and he had netted 100 yards and gained 100 yards. He didn't lose a single yard, 15 carries, 100 yards, no losses, and, went into halftime with a couple touchdowns. He had the first ever touchdown in his career as a freshman, 38-yarder where he broke through the middle. A hole had opened. I saw it. I was like, oh my God, he's going to get some good yards. He breaks through. I see him get wrapped up, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to go down. And then all of a sudden, he rolls around and keeps going. What a fantastic way to score your first touchdown. Syracuse gets a 100-yard back in this game, and, just incredible because we don't see that anymore. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but I think they did a good job with the two things I was concerned with on Georgia Tech's offense. And then, Syracuse, on Syracuse's offensive side, Tommy, like you said, Tommy looked good. The receivers looked good. Both of the tight ends caught a pass in this game, which was nice to see him involve Luke Benson and Aaron Hackett again. And they ran the dang ball, which I've only said for a decade. I've only been sitting on this going, can we please just run the ball? So I know I've said a lot, you said a lot, but what's your take on some of the things that I said here?
Yeah, so on the defensive side, like you mentioned, the quarterback and how he was doubling his picks every game. Two in the first and two in the second week. As a defender, especially if you're in the secondary, you're thinking, all right, we're definitely going to nab one. And then on a personal level, you're trying to get one from them as best you can. And what I saw from Syracuse's defense, and what's really encouraging to me, is on the back end, you would think that they're creating all these turnovers by shifting their defense and rotating one way after showing the quarterback something else, and doing all these complicated things. But I'm watching them, and they're lining up. And even if Georgia Tech may have changed a play here or there, they're lining up. They'll look at it, reset, and then just play. And it doesn't seem like they're doing all these complicated things to adjust their defense to whatever the offense is giving them. They're just lining up and playing. And from a lot of things I've seen, they're very simple coverages, either man or whatever zone they're in. And they just take advantage of every opportunity, meaning tips and overthrows. It's something DB coaches say all the time. And those are your easiest and most current opportunities to get the ball. And we saw that this week, the overthrows, the tips, and these guys, they go out and get it, and they take advantage of every opportunity. They're not dropping and having to hit the push-ups on the sideline. These guys just take advantage of every single opportunity given to them, and that's all you can ask for as a secondary coach. And to watch these guys and the way they just line up and play. And then the other side of that, with Trill Williams getting the pitch from his roommate and then taking that in, I'm like, that's like one of the best defensive plays I've ever seen. It's something that I can remember Coach Shafe even asking, like, hey, if you get a pick, don't be afraid to pitch to your guy. But no one does that because, it takes a huge amount of trust. It's a very risky play. But the fact that it was even able to happen shows you how much that this defense trusts each other, how much these guys trust each other, and how comfortable they are playing with each other. To be in that scenario and then have the thought to say, hey, there you are, boom, here's the ball. That's just an awesome heads-up play. And these guys are thinking. I mean, they're on a really high level when it comes to defensive play, because that's not something guys typically do, offense or defense. It's risky. It's something that coaches coach against unless, they're crazy. But these guys, they're making it happen however they need to, and that just tells me that they're all on the same page. They're playing at a high level, and I think that's going to continue throughout the year. So this defense, to me, looks legit. They're well coached already. I was concerned that they may be just ahead of offenses based on the way that this season has been affected by greater things, but they seem to be on track. They just seem to be on track and understand what they need to do this week and this season. So from a defense side of the ball, you can't ask for much more. They're doing everything you really want from them. And then the offensive side of the ball, like we said, they finally run the ball, and that's the thing I've been wondering. Like, is it something that they just couldn't do, and finally it busted through this week, or was it something that they didn't focus on and it finally hit? And I've always gone back to Coach Babers and his time with Bowling Green State, and his last season with them, he had two backs who averaged over 5 yards per carry. I know one of them was a 1,000-yard back. I can't say for certain the second. But I do know that they both had over 5 yards per carry as running backs. And so that tells me that there is something in this offense that says, hey, we're supposed to be able to run the ball. It's not very in-depth. I'm sure they don't have much more than 5 run plays in their playbook. But there used to be an emphasis on it, and it was effective. You can tell it's effective by how great that yards per carry average is. So I was always wondering why it never translated over to Syracuse. We never had 2 guys averaging more than 5 yards per carry. It was usually Dungy was the leader, and then Mo Neal or Dante Strickland would carry for 3 or 4. So seeing that this week, at least with the freshmen, it was encouraging because maybe I'm thinking, is the line finally getting it together? Are they finally gelling together? Do they understand it, or was that just Herculean effort from the running backs this week? And I'm thinking, I want to believe that Syracuse is finally figuring out on offense, but I'm also concerned, thinking maybe Georgia Tech's defense just wasn't up to par this week, and that's something I want to watch going forward because these are some one-off things. You got to be careful of saying, this is Syracuse's offense, but it's something that I'm encouraged by because they're going into the bye week. There's a lot of self-scouting that they can do to say, hey, this is what we like to do, this is what we're going to keep trying to do. But seeing it one time, you're a little skeptical to say, okay, this is them. But to see it happen at least once, it tells me that, okay, they know they have this. Let's see if they continue to develop it going forward. So, they've got a lot of talent, and I really like what they've done so far, or at least in week 3 against Georgia Tech. So there's a lot to think about as a coach, and there's a lot to build off of as an offense. And going forward, I'm encouraged by what I've seen so far from Syracuse.
That coming from my partner here for Midweek Blitz, Julian Whigham, this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, speaking with you on Syracuse's W that they got, finally getting a win after losing to North Carolina on the road and Pittsburgh on the road, getting that win over Georgia Tech, which makes them 1-2 on the season, 1-2 in the ACC, but 1-0 in the new dome. Julian, do you have any questions, any thoughts about the new dome and just the experience? I've been talking about it a little bit here on the show, but I know it's been a bit since you've been in it, and you haven't seen it since it's all been redone. So, do you have any thoughts on that angle?
Yeah, I was wondering, one, what the game atmosphere was like, because I would imagine it would feel like watching a spring game with not as many people there. And then 2, what was the roof like? I've seen pictures, but I've never. I haven't seen. Obviously, I've never been in there, and I don't know what kind of atmosphere that creates for fans watching the game. So, one, I guess it would be what's the game atmosphere like, because it's obviously not going to be the same as any other situation. And 2, with the new roof in and having seen the dome for X amount of years before this point, like how has the arena's atmosphere changed, and how has not having a crowd affected the viewing aspect of being a fan in the stands?
I would say, first and foremost, what the game experience was like. I thought it was fantastic. I thought that without having fans there, obviously they pumped in noise, and I thought it was really cool. The noise sounded so crisp and so good and so booming and so, kind of all-encompassing that I thought to myself, wow, the fans really, you got to beat those speakers. The fans got to come in there and they got to shock and awe those speakers because it sounded really clean and really amazing. But, I would say to you that, when they score a touchdown, I think it's incredible. They have different graphics. They don't put up the same graphics every time for the touchdown. They don't put up, the same stuff every time in general. They're able to, put video on that. And the board I don't want to call it the board, the entertainment center in the middle of the dome that's hanging there for us. It's so unique and it's so cool because it's like a stretched out square. And it has, like, these little corners. You could put things in the corners. You could put, like, Otto in the corners, or you could put, like, a sponsor in the corners. And then you have the 4 outside boards that can run video and whatnot. And then you have the inside boards, which can run something else. So you can, like, literally look inside of the entertainment center and see that that's saying Syracuse football, and, like, the outside's saying Cuse. So I thought that was really cool. I like that they went back to the old Otto, not the angry Otto, because I like the happy, come hug me Otto. Like, the Sour Patch Kid, when they say first they're sour, then they're sweet. Otto's like the sweet side. So I thought that was cool that they had that. They brought that back. It was nostalgic for me in my childhood. But I just saw. I mean, I thought the entertainment value of it was great. They can, even with the dome being kind of open and in a way like shining in more light, they're able to turn it down, so to speak. Like they can make it look darker in the dome, which is cool. So after they score, they kind of like turn the lights down, so to speak, and then they turn the lights up, and they have these bright white lights that are on the outside, inside of the dome. They're kind of like on the outside, the upper part. They're able to brighten up the dome if they need to. They have orange and blue lights in there. They have 2 ribbon boards. The scoreboard in the corner that used to be like an old digital board, now that one can show graphics. They can all show graphics. They have a Ring of Honor that has, your Floyd Littles and your Ernie Davises and your Jim Browns and Jim Boeheim and whatnot. The Ernie Davis Legends Field is right at the 50-yard line. It's bigger now. It's more pronounced. They announce that when you come out. They say, welcome today to the Ernie Davis Legends Fields. And I can't remember if they did that every game here recently, but they say that now, and then they announce who Syracuse is playing. So I thought, for entertainment value, I thought it was great. I thought the music was great. I thought the videos that, the staff put together were incredible for the intro. I thought that was a lot of fun. I liked the fact that they had they had pieces that were edited from the first 2 weeks of the season, even like the Rex Culpepper touchdown and all of that. So it was good to see that they had bonded like the old with the new. It was good to see the lights. It was good to see, what they can do with the lights, what they could do with the sound. You catch yourself just staring at this behemoth in the center of the dome. And, even Trill said that. He's like, I catch myself kind of looking up at it in awe and then being like, hey, man, you can't be focused on this right now. So I think it's, I think the entertainment value is there. I think it's crisp. I think it's clean. In a crazy way, to me, it makes the dome look bigger. Like the way that they did the roof of the dome now, it actually makes the dome look larger to me. So I thought that was kind of cool too. Like the depth of field, it looks a lot bigger. I even thought the field looked more crisp and more clean and polished. So I think they did a great job with it. I think that as far as their ability to run multiple sponsors, their ability to put up the video and show you things. You're not trying to like crane your neck and stare in the corner to see the replay. You can see it now right in the center, and seeing that replay in the center and all the different ways that you can see this and the way that the like I said, the board is like pulled out, kind of stretched out. It's a very unique design, and it's not like a massive TV screen that you just hang up there, like it seems like with the Dallas Cowboys. It's this entertainment center, but, you could still see the plays, and they can show you pretty instantaneously. So I thought it was cool. I thought it was great all the way around. Being less than 100 people in the dome, if there was even 40 of us or 50 of us, is one of the greatest moments of my career and of my life that that I could say. There's 2 times that the dome opened. December 1st, 1980, and September 26, 2020. So, I definitely appreciated being there. I thought that it was really, really fun to experience it, and I couldn't get over the sound. I really genuinely couldn't get over the sound. And I thought it was just really, really cool, really crisp. You could tell that they put some work into this, and they didn't half do this at all. And I think the dome, I can tell you this, for Syracuse having lost a lot in recent years, for Syracuse, not being at the top of the, ACC or playing in an ACC championship game or consistently going to bowl games, I know that works against them. But I can honestly tell you that when I left the dome and I made a phone call to my family, I said, if I was getting recruited to play football right now and I walked in here and they turned on all this stuff and they let me experience it, I'm telling you right now, if I did not come from Syracuse, New York, and I was being recruited, that dome would be a huge recruiting pitch for me, and it would be a huge knockout of the ballpark, and I would definitely consider Syracuse just off of the arena that you get to play in.
And I think that was probably the most important thing you said, was how will this affect recruits going forward? Because I know for a long time, if they brought kids in, they brought me in. They bring you to the Dome for about 5 minutes. They talk about how they have basketball games first there, which I thought was weird. They'll show you pictures of how packed it can get, which it never did. And then they skip past the locker rooms and everything else. But from what I've seen, they've redone the locker rooms. They haven't obviously redone the roof. Like, the impact that this Dome may have on recruits is probably the biggest thing for Syracuse, because if they can make a jump in what they've been doing, from ranking usually around the mid-50s to early 60s and jumping up to the 40s and 30s, I think that's when Syracuse can make a jump past what we usually expect them to in terms of their record. They're usually a 500 team, but with things like this, the way that they set up the Dome, the way that they can bring in recruits and impact guys and say, hey, this is what you can do here, I think that can actually step them up in terms of getting that occasional 4-star and moving up in terms of the overall ranking. So for you to say that's encouraging, and I'm wondering, if you put yourself in a recruit's shoes, just again for me, Dan, and when you're walking in, isn't it something it's a place where wouldn't you think that you walk in and it's just the shock value that it has? Because everywhere else as a recruit, you're seeing the sky, you're seeing maybe tall stands, and then when you walked in, Dan, is there a certain shock value to the Dome where like you see any other massive structure? What's the shock value like when you're finally inside of the Dome? Because I think for a lot of people, when you come in, especially as a recruit, that initial reaction is what drives how badly you want to be there once again.
Yeah, I would say, when you come into it's from the outside of, seeing, the giant rail that kind of goes all the way around it, that's really cool. Like, that kind of gets me. I mean, I know some people are like, why is the rail there? And obviously, there's wires that are connected to it. It's to help to, from what I can tell, I'm not anybody that works in construction, but it looks like, obviously because the system is so heavy in the center, and obviously to hold up, the dome roof, that they have, that they put this railing on the outside to not only look cool and be an interesting and unique design that kind of isn't just like a straight rail, but it kind of, bends almost like a roller coaster. That's, that's there to hold things up. I think that's, when I was going up and I was shooting my video outside of the Dome, I thought it was really, really cool to have that and to take those pictures and to be able to show that. So I think that there's a wow factor going into the Dome that, like, when you get really close and you see this giant, structure, and then you see the rail on the top kind of going around, you're like, wow, this is an arena. Like, I kind of just got some chills talking about it. I'm like, this is an arena. And then when you go in, I think the thing that hits you, the moment you walk in, I think the thing that hit me was, damn, the field looks bigger, and that board is incredible. Like, I think you do. I think you stare at, I don't want to call it the board. You stare at the entertainment center. And I feel like that's the thing that really hit me, was the Dome looks bigger. It looks wider. It looks like it grew, essentially. And then I just stare at the thing in the middle, and it's got the Q's up, and then it shifts, and it'll shift to auto, and then it'll say Syracuse, and it'll change colors and whatnot. Like, that's what hits me. Walking into the Dome, seeing the giant rail on the outside, and me going, this is this is serious. Because taking those pictures and shooting that video, I got excited because, I was born and raised in Syracuse, so I got hype being outside of that. And then when I went inside and I sat down and I looked at the board, I stared at the board for a while. And when they scored, I would look up at it and see, like, what are they going to do with the score? And, if something happened, okay, what are they going to do with this? So I thought it was really, really cool to see that. So I would say my shock and awe is the new rail as you get closer to it, looking up at that, seeing the already big Dome, and then seeing that thing, kind of just extend above it. And then when you walk in, I think, you can't help. I think a lot of fans are just going to stare right at that video, audio, entertainment system in the middle, of the Dome roof, and just I think they're going to take that all in. I can only imagine what this is going to be like when they can, like, turn down the lights like they did for football, and they can do all the stuff that they do with the entertainment system for a basketball game, because that's when you get, like, 30,000 people, and I can only imagine what that's going to look like. But so that would be my answer, but then also to respond to something you said, Julian, here in Midweek Blitz, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You made mention of something that I've always kind of thought about, is when they bring a player in to be recruited, they might like bring you to a basketball game because they want to show you what the dome looks like packed, and it never happens for a football game in recent history. Or they'll show you like, oh, we have 30,000 people and 35,000 people and 34,000 people, but maybe they don't, tell you that that's not for football. Bring me into that a little bit more. So, I mean, obviously feel free to respond to anything I said to answer your question, of course, but I really wanted to hone in on, how honest are they in recruiting when they're showing you these big crowds, but not necessarily telling you that it's for basketball and not for football?
Yeah, so they'll bring you in, and I think I was brought in for, what game was that? Like Virginia Tech. It wasn't a big-time game, and I think the week before that was Georgetown, and they showed like a lot of pictures of what that looked like. And the conversations you have are, one, to say, hey, this is what we get for basketball, and you can like just imagine what this would be like if it was a football game. And they kind of try to get you, the impressionable 17-year-old, to kind of fill the stadium for them. And you see the arena, and you look at it and say, wow. Like, you see how big it is, because it's unlike anything else. You're in a dome rather than a stadium, so you're seeing it all like kind of on top of you. And you're like, wow, and you kind of fill the rest of the stadium in with your imagination, and they kind of harp on how loud it gets inside of the dome, whether there's the 10,000 people or 50,000 people. And they never exactly say, hey, it's not full, but they kind of play on your imagination a little bit to fill it for them, and then talk about how loud it can get in there. And they'll use the basketball game as kind of a setup to show you how many people are coming in and what it looks like. So I won't say that they lie to you, but it's not necessarily a very direct conversation in terms of who's going to be there and who's not. And I think as a recruit, you kind of have to know that coming in. Usually you're not coming in off of a great season. I mean, Marone had come off of 8-4, 8-5, or 9-5 year in 2011 before 2012 when I was coming in. But it's something where they really just try to play on your imagination a bit and try to play on your A-type personality as an athlete to say, hey, when you come in, though, we're trying to build this into a place where it's packed every weekend. And you, someone who's beat the odds in terms of making it as a high school player to a college player, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to come in here and do what I need to do, and by the time I leave, this place is going to be packed. And, that's something that is really rare to do. I'd say only really Dungy and those guys, those seniors really got a chance to do that. But even now, it's not quite consistently packed yet. So they play in your imagination. They try to get you as a recruit to say, hey, you're going to be the guy that's going to pack this place for years to come. But, I mean, it's something where I think that now they have this roof and that they have this arena. One, I hope it attracts fans when we can finally get to full capacity. And two, if Syracuse keeps playing well and keeps playing with a little level of consistency and starts to finally get the recruits that they need to play at a high level, I think that this can finally turn into a place that becomes that packed 60,000 person arena. And if they can fill that, it's one of the loudest places in the country. They're right about that. That's something that they didn't lie about. It's one of the loudest places I've ever been. When I was watching Clemson, it was louder than I had ever seen Florida State. It was louder than it was in Death Valley and Clemson. Louder than just about any other stadium I've ever been in on the field. So when Syracuse is packed and rocking, it's one of the best college football atmospheres in the country. And if they can find a way to pack it, especially with that new and beautiful roof, I think that Syracuse, as a home field advantage in the Carrier Dome, is something that they can truly take advantage of. So, it's an interesting dynamic for Syracuse. And as a recruit, they play on your imagination a bit, but if they finally put it together, I think that imagination can finally come true for a few of those guys if they take advantage of it the right way.
Yeah, and again, I think the thing that was cool, trying to find a positive in, what has been a very trying time for a lot of people is, without having fans in the stands, you could hear the hits. And that's something I really took in. Like, you could hear the hits. There was one of the hits where Trill just knocked somebody down, and stood there, and I was like, damn. You know what I mean? And I remember that I used the, I call it a GIF. I know people call them GIFs, but I say GIF, whatever, it's the way I feel. So, I put a GIF out there of one of my favorite movies, Ted, where Ted, the talking teddy bear, he just says, wow. And I just was like, Trill just welcomed you to the new dome. Like, there were certain things. I mean, obviously when Taj caught the ball and you heard it just like snap, like that I had mentioned before. I thought that was really cool. It was moments like that. You heard the catches, you heard the hits, and that was really, really cool and crisp and clean. And for a lover of the game like me, that like I've said to coaches before, I said you don't have to worry about me sharing anything. You can have my phone and put it in a safe. I won't bring a recorder in here. I won't even bring a notebook. Like, I just want to sit and watch film. Like, I'm a student of the game. I just want to watch film. I want to see if the coach sees what I see, if I see what they see. Like, that's what I love. So for me, being such a student of the game and caring about all that, hearing those hits and really getting to have that just kind of surround you, like the best surround sound that I felt there was in, as good as the audio was on, the entertainment system and all that, the surround sound to me that I loved more than anything was hearing the hits, hearing the catches, hearing those pieces of it. So I thought that there was a lot of good to be had, in the sense that even though fans weren't there, you got to hear the cracks of the game, the hits of the game. And I thought that, that kind of brought me back to when you were watching old videos and somebody would lower the boom and you would hear it. So I thought that was a really cool part of it and, exciting. So, I can only tell you that if the Pittsburgh game that you played in, that was a basketball game, they got from, 70s and 60s, what was it, over 130 points scored in the game. I think that if you played that game in this new dome, at least you would have been able to watch TV, is all I have to say.
Yeah, that would give you the opportunity to at least get take a break and look up, watch a little bit more of the game. But that's just hearing your whole story about the dome itself. I'm excited to get up there and try to watch the game. It's probably next year, but just hearing your stories about it is because I've only seen pictures, and from what I've gathered, I talked to a few of the guys who had graduated recently, who were looking at they were just saying the same thing, man, this would have been huge to have been played in ourselves. So I'm sure that it's going to encourage recruits to come in. I think it's going to help Coach Babers and his efforts bringing guys in because that kind of atmosphere, on top of great games like that Pitt game, or if you bring in Clemson or whoever else, that kind of atmosphere can truly bring Syracuse football to another level in terms of their gameplay, who we see on the field, what kind of talent that they have. Because when you have it's an arms race in college football, right? And to have certain facilities to encourage athletes to come to your university, that's all the difference. In Syracuse, with the coaches that they have, the scheme that they run, knowing that they're going to be trying to throw the ball, knowing they're going to be indoors, to put a roof like this on top of the dome, and I think there is AC now. I think all those things will contribute to a better football program going forward. So just hearing your perspective on watching from the stands, that tells me that Syracuse is going and moving in the right direction on the field as well. And I'm encouraged. I'm excited about what kind of recruits are able to bring in based off of some of the new things that Syracuse has added. So lots of good things to be excited about, getting the first win, knowing that they've got guys who can make plays, and then knowing that the atmosphere in Syracuse is better than it's been. I think Syracuse is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and to make a note here, coming off of a big game by Sean Tucker, and I know that this is the start of his career, but just to make mention of it, Jerome Smith was on the show yesterday, and for those of you that are listening live, and you can go back and watch the video, youtube.com/WakeUpCallDT. You can check it out. You can also check it out on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT. But Jerome and I were speaking about the fact that he was the last 1,000-yard back for Syracuse. It was back in 2012 that he was the last 1,000-yard back. He had 1171. That year, Prince Tyson Gully almost had 1,000 yards himself. Combined, they had 2,000 yards. I think it was 2,001 yards from scrimmage running the ball. And Jerome was the end of a 5-year stretch where Syracuse had 1,000-yard backs. 2008, Curtis Brinkley. 2009 and 10, DeLon Carter. 2011, Antoine Bailey. 2012, Jerome Smith. So just to kind of paint a picture of how long it's been since Syracuse has had a 1,000-yard back and really committed to the run. And if you go back and you look at it and you look at the numbers, it's like, yeah, it was the end of the Doug Marrone era. So, and he believed in running the rock. I mean, look at it. He's the head coach of Jacksonville. They made 1,000 mistakes against Miami, but James Robinson, the undrafted rookie out of Illinois State, what did he do? He scored 2 touchdowns in the game. I mean, the man still looks good. So, even in the worst of games, James Robinson's looking good. And it also says something about Leonard Fournette. Like, why is James Robinson working in this offense where, Leonard Fournette just didn't make sense for them to have there? So, with that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back, Julian and I will make our ACC picks of the week, as well as we'll take a look around the rest of college football and give you our thoughts as we move forward. Can't believe that this first hour is almost up, but, when you're talking about Big Ed and 90 Day Fiancé and Syracuse winning games and boards and whatnot, time flies when you're having a good time. So we'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Tune in to our fantastic partners that we have in the community, and we'll be back here from the Cafe Kubal studios with our picks of the week right after this.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code ABS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavicolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avicoli's, your local, trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter right around the corner.
Cafe
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecabal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you download their app on the Google Play or Apple App Store by searching Millhouse Market. You'll have their entire menu at your fingertips with contactless pay. You don't have to hand your card to anybody. You don't have to worry about any of that. And when you pick up your food, you can stay right in your car, go right to their drive-up window, grab your food, and go. They make it easy for all of us, and they keep us, safe, and they're doing everything that they possibly can in this very unique time. So I want to give a big shout out to the Millhouse Market for all that they're doing to go the extra mile. And then beyond that, the fact that every single day their food is absolutely incredible and goes the extra mile itself with combinations that your brain would never even think of. To put arugula on that or pear on that or a pecan spread and to move every time I think I know what my sandwich is, it changes. Every time I think I know that's the pizza, that's the bee sting, I'm getting that every time. I get the steak and blue, and I'm like, oh, they're so different, but they're so good. One sweet, one savory. So when it all comes down to it, the Millhouse Market has a huge menu, and it would behoove you to go through that menu and try to think you can find. This is a thing. Here's something for Central and Upstate New York. I want you to go to the Millhouse Market, and I want you to, pick out something you think you'll like. And then I want you to pick out something else. And if you can tell me that you have a favorite after a month, maybe we should do some prize or something for that. Because I feel like your taste buds will consistently tell you, I like it all. I want that meatball sub, but I also want that steak and blue pizza, but I also want that maple brownie. Millhouse Market does it unlike anybody else, and it's because the talent and the brain and just the love that's put into it by Rebecca Alford at the top of this thing. She's just incredible, and her work is impeccable. So I do want to give a big shout-out to the Millhouse Market. It is worth the drive every time, no matter where you're driving from. So head out to the Millhouse Market on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. With that being said, I got to say this off the air because we were having fun, but I was being real about it. Julian and I were talking about, Syracuse in the rest of the season, and he said, they cannot lose to Liberty. It can't happen. They can't do it. And I told him during the Greg Robinson era that Syracuse actually lost to Akron. And Akron's mascot is a kangaroo because of the Akron Zips. And the kangaroo, I don't know if they've changed the mascot at this point, but the kangaroo was an emaciated kangaroo with a beer gut. And how I describe that to you, if you don't know what an emaciated kangaroo looks like, it's a kangaroo whose skin looks like it's just like rough. It looks like it hasn't eaten in a year, but it has this giant beer belly. It was like this kangaroo had not had a meal in the like Sarah McLachlan needed to sing a song about this kangaroo, but it had a beer gut. It was like this kangaroo was standing right by Destiny USA asking for money, and every time you gave the kangaroo money, it was buying beer, no food. Like that's what this beer that's what this. And I remember I was there with my dad. And I said to my dad, I want you to look at that mascot that's celebrating in the end zone right now. that's like shaking its belly and like rolling its belly around. I go, I want you to look at that and remember that we lost to that. Syracuse lost to that. They lost to an anorexic kangaroo with a beer gut, and that beer gut was strong. So I was like, Dad, just burn that in your head that is the worst moment that I've ever seen in Syracuse football history. So I know we talked about it off the air, Julian, but what are your thoughts on Syracuse losing to a kangaroo that hadn't eaten in a year but had plenty of beer in its gut? A lot of Miller Lite, not so much of the food, but definitely a lot of beer in the belly.
Yeah, I had to look it up. Zippy was the name of the mascot. I'll tell you, he's built like a Honda Civic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is, you lose a game, especially to a team like Akron. You see Zippy, some kangaroo with a beer gut dance in front of you as you leave. I mean, it's probably one of the most humiliating feelings you probably ever have. So I'm sure those guys have done their best to forget that game, because I sure would have tried after having looked at Zippy and his beer gut bounce around after the game.
It's like when American Idol had Sanjaya on it. Like that's I don't know if you remember that, but like people were voting this guy in that was just like not great at singing, but they thought it was funny to vote him in. I don't know what it was. And I mean, but it's like I'm watching. I go back to that game. We were behind one of the goalposts, and I just looked at the left corner of the end zone, and I go, Dad, we're losing to Akron. And he's like, all right, Dad. I was like, no, but I said, Dad, look at the mascot. Like, I want to give this mascot a cracker, and I also want to bring him to AA. Like, there was a problem with this mascot, and that's who you lost to. You lost to a kangaroo that hadn't eaten in longer than I can imagine, but was just beering it up every single day. Like this mascot, I just pictured this mascot at like 11 a.m. in a bar, just sipping on it, this little kangaroo, just sipping on a beer going, life was different back then. Syracuse lost to that mascot. They lost to the Akron Zips. By raising your hands, how many people know that the Akron Zips had a football team? Like this, that is your Liberty, Julian. That is your Liberty Flames, okay? But the Liberty Flames have something that Akron does not, or they don't have something that Akron has, okay? And that is a kangaroo that is starving, yet always thirst is quenched. So at least live in that moment and know that no matter what happens, God willing, Syracuse will never lose to that kangaroo again, because I question everything about my life at that point. I question, does the earth spin on its axis? I question, is snow really snow or is it something else? I question, when I watch the Kardashians, I question life enough. But when I saw that emaciated kangaroo with a beer gut defeat Syracuse, I had to speak to Jesus for a while after that.
Akron should be banned from Syracuse again. That's all I know.
And the thing is, they probably paid for Akron to come in, like they did for Middle Tennessee State.
Exactly. One of the worst bits of money ever spent.
Yeah.
Ban them.
I don't want to hear anybody talk to me about, you bought a BB-8 that you could put together at Star Wars. Why did you spend money on that in Disney? Syracuse spent money to lose to a kangaroo that needs a good hot meal. Like, I'm okay with the money I spent on BB-8. So, and when somebody comes into my house and tells me what I spend my money, I was like, listen, okay, I'm not crazy, but when I went down to Star Wars land, when I went to Batuu, right, and I went to Galaxy's Edge, I'm gonna have a little bit of fun in Disney, right? Because that's my wilding out. I don't go get drunk. I don't spend a lot of money on alcohol. I'm not a crazy person in that respect. I'm not buying women Louis Vuitton purses and stuff. Because that's, if I'm with you for a long time and you're my ride or die, maybe a Louis Vuitton's in your future. But if we're dating, I'm not going to do that, because you know what's going to happen, Julian? If you're dating this girl like a couple times and you buy her a Louis Vuitton, and you go out and get her a drink, she's gonna bounce away like that kangaroo with that Louis Vuitton purse. I'm not going to let that happen.
This is true. Put it right in the pouch and get to hopping.
Yeah, that's right. She's going to put it right in the pouch and be like, I got to go. So we're not doing that. We're not doing that with but go and look up that game, Julian. If you want to know the pain of one of your friends right here on the other side of this microphone. Go watch whatever it is about that Akron game and look up that kangaroo and just let that live in your brain for a minute that I got to see that in real time. It's painful.
Yeah, I'm afraid to even watch it, man, because I couldn't go. I don't know if I can go through that. I've had a lot of painful losses in my life dealing with Syracuse football. I don't know if I can add another one.
Yeah, and so Julian, you're sounding far away. Please don't run away from the microphone here. The zip will not bite you. I promise you that. So before we get wrapped up here with our segment, the Midweek Blitz with Julian Whigham here every single Wednesday, talking about what's happened and what is to come, we have to give our picks for college football this week, and then we'll be jumping right into the Fantasy Football Power Hour with Mike Sofka in just a few minutes. So we're going to take a look at this. College football-wise, Syracuse is obviously off this week. They have a bye week. There are 2 bye weeks this season for the ACC. This is Syracuse's first. So some of these games, Papa Joe and I gave our picks as well, but I think it's important to go over them, and I'm obviously going to keep my pick the same. I'm not going to change it, but Julian has an opportunity. South Carolina at Florida, Julian. Florida just won on the road against Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Any thoughts on South Carolina and Florida? Who's going to take this one?
I like Florida. I think they're number 3 in the country right now, and one of the top teams in college football. Just top to bottom, I think they're one of the most talented teams. And then looking back, their secondary, Kyer Elam. He is a kid that actually trained with me a few years ago before he went to Florida and started as a corner for them. But just knowing the talent level that he has, and continuing to talk to him about that secondary and what Florida's got this year, and he tells me like, "No, look, man, I truly believe we're a national contender this year." And I'm like, "Man, go get it." So I believe in Florida this year. Having talks with Kyer and what they've done, and I really love their secondary and their back end, and I think just top to bottom, they have one of the most talented teams in college football. So I'm going with Florida this week. I think they have a real chance at a natty this year.
I said Florida, last season I was saying Dan Mullen, when he came in, I feel like he was going to right the ship and make this a national champion contender. And, within these next couple seasons, I fully anticipate them pushing for a college football playoff spot. So I have Florida in this matchup. NC State at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's ranked in the top 25. They've remained ranked in the top 25. NC State has defeated Wake Forest in a shootout, 45-42. Then they lost to Virginia Tech, 45-24 on the road at Virginia Tech. That means that NC State has given up 40-plus points in their only 2 games of the season. On the other side of this matchup, Pittsburgh defeated, in their first game, Austin Peay. They won that game 55-0. They defeated Syracuse 21-10. And then they won against Louisville 23-20 most recently here, with the last team that was ranked 24th in the country, and then Pittsburgh took their spot. So what are your thoughts on this matchup between NC State and Pittsburgh?
NC State's giving up a lot of points, and they're struggling on defense right now versus a Pitt team who they've changed their offense a bit. We've always known them. We've kind of talked about this before when Syracuse had the matchup. They changed their offense a bit where we've always known them to be that power run team with 2 different backs almost touching 1,000 yards to where they're trying to be a little more multiple on offense, going vertical in the passing game, mixing it up between spread and power. I like what Pitt's been doing. They've earned their spot in the top 25, and that's going to give them the edge for me. I'm going with Pitt this week just because I think their offense matches up really well against NC State's defense. And on the other side of that, I think Pitt's defensive line is going to take advantage of a quarterback situation that's uncertain at NC State. So I like Pitt this week. I think they're going to do very well in conference play this year. So I like that football team. I think they're going to go far.
Yeah, I'm going to give it up to Pitt as well in this game. Pitt's doing some good things. They made some mistakes against Syracuse, 2 missed field goals and a botched field goal. They, at times look like they were trying to aid Syracuse forward, and Syracuse's offense just didn't take it. So, Pitt, I do think, has obviously the win over Louisville to me is a quality win. I know Louisville's had some struggles, but I think that's a quality one for me. And NC State, I have a lot of respect for Dave Doran. I just don't think that right now it's clicking. So I'm going to give it to Pitt. They're at home, so I think they'll keep riding, that ability, being at home and doing what they've done. I think they'll get themselves to 4-0, and Pitt's going to look really, really good in the ACC, which is which is good for them. I mean, obviously, and people forget this, they came into the ACC the same year that Syracuse did, and they have done a tremendous job. Well, Dan, they're in the Coastal Division. Yeah, okay, well, the Coastal hasn't been as strong as the Atlantic, but let's talk about the fact that Pittsburgh in general has, I mean, they've done it. They've done what they needed to do. They beat the teams that were in front of them, and they've looked better in the ACC than Syracuse had. They've sent more guys to the NFL. They've had more successes with that. They've been ranked in the top 25 more often. So, I give a lot of credit to what Pat Narduzzi is doing in Pittsburgh. Texas A&M at Alabama. Any chance that Jimbo, I love doing the Jimbo accent. I tell you. Listen, this James Winston, I know he's not the guy that you think that he is, but he's a pretty darn good player. So let's get into this. Texas A&M at Alabama. Any shot for Texas A&M?
Listen, they got a good football team, but again, it's Alabama, which is my favorite college football program. Just the way they run, the ability that they have, both offense and defense. I can't give this one. Well, I think it's probably the game of the week. And I love Jimbo Fisher, the way he came and visited me back when I was at Florida State after the injury. Tons of respect for him and how he runs a program, the way he can evaluate talent and the guys that he has on his roster right now. But it's Alabama, it's Nick Saban, and if Nick Saban hasn't given you anything to game plan for, and if you don't have a quarterback who it can scramble and give you those extra chances on the outside in terms of running the ball, it's hard to beat a Nick Saban defense. So I'm sticking with Alabama. I think they run the table this year as an undefeated football team that we see in the national championship. So I think this is just one of those weeks where they continue to roll tide. But yeah, I'm going with Alabama this week and what they and their amount of talent that they have.
Roll Tide. So what is your? Bring me into. I'm going to pick Alabama as well in this game. And I feel like, I think this is, like you said, it could be the game of the week. I think it's going to be closer than people might anticipate. I'm going to be watching it for sure, but I'm very excited about. I'm excited about. I think this might be Jimbo Fisher's best game for Texas A&M against Alabama since he's gotten there. But I do have Alabama winning the game. Bring me into the Jimbo Fisher visit. I forgot about that injury. I forgot about the fact that that was a bad injury in Tallahassee. Bring me into that and what Jimbo Fisher did.
Yeah, so I was once I got into the hospital and had all my tests done and taken care of, with just going over and making sure I was okay. I had got a note from I think it was my mother had told me that, hey, it looks like Coach Fisher wants to see you. Syracuse had to take off and go, so there was really no one there for me. And for whatever reason, he decided to come up, and I'm like, the hospital asked, everyone asked, is that okay? And I'm like, yeah, of course. So he came in, which was a really crazy feeling. Like, why does this guy even care to come up? So you feel welcome. And then the other side of that, I had a friend of mine, Nick O'Leary, who was my teammate at Dwyer. He let me know, hey man, Nick wanted to make sure you were okay. I want to make sure you're okay. We kind of talked about just living in South Florida, recruiting. I got to rib him a little bit, like, hey man, you sent me the letter. What about the offer? And it was, just a good time going back and forth and kind of just talking football a little bit. And it's those little moments that they seem insignificant, but they really meant the world to me. Someone that didn't have to reach out and check in on you did. So it was a good moment. We got a chance to really, just talk ball and what we had going on for the rest of the year, how we got to the points that we did, and it was an unexpected conversation that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. So it was a really special moment, and while I wish the circumstances didn't bring me to it, I really enjoyed getting a chance to meet Coach Fisher and what he was about.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, and also shows the type of human being that he is, and has always been good to me. So, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I'm happy that you're here because I was at that game, and I remember you got carted off the field. I mean, that was a tough one, but I'm happy that you're okay, and I'm happy that you're doing well, above all things. The next one that we have, North Carolina at Boston College. Any shot for BC? They came back to defeat Texas State. I know that's a game that they should have won, but they had to come back from, I think, 14 down in that game. They're at home against North Carolina, who, since Mac Brown has come in, they were winning 2 to 3 games a year. North Carolina was the worst team in the ACC record-wise. Even, when people are like, oh, Syracuse is terrible, they were worse than Syracuse. If Syracuse was 13, North Carolina was 14. Then last year, they almost beat Clemson at home in North Carolina at Chapel Hill. They lose to Clemson because it was 21-20 or something like that, and they decided to not go for the extra point. They went to win the game. So they lost in regulation because they went for a 2-point conversion. They brought them all the way to, Mac Brown brought them all the way to that in season number 1. Some great moments in season number 1. They were doing things against Clemson that Alabama and Notre Dame wasn't doing. So, you look at that, and then you look at this year, they're ranked in the top 12 right now. What are your thoughts on Mac Brown and season number 2 in North Carolina, and that he brought this team from virtual obscurity to being ranked in the top 15 in the nation?
Yeah, so one, I would tell anyone thinking about picking BC this week to save their money. I think UNC is going to go ahead and win this game. But two, that's something I've always thought about. Like, how do some coaches, what is it that they do that they can come in and turn a program around, and within year one, Urban Meyer is someone who does it wherever he goes. And I think he had a really strong background, especially coming out of Utah, then to Florida, then to Ohio State. Like, he just knew how to bring a program together in year one. And Matt Brown shares that trait where he was able to come in and, the change that he made, he was able to take UNC and make them a contender in the ACC. And I've always wondered what is it about those coaches and how they can do that. And maybe it comes with the experience, and they just know how to utilize the talent that they have, because they both share this concept. But they don't say, hey, they don't wait for getting my guys in, because the guys that they take on in their first year, they say, these are my guys. This is who we're playing with, and there's no concept of we need to get our recruits in there. And I really love that about Coach Brown, about Urban Meyer. Like, their ability to just take in guys and take a program and turn. I don't know how they do it. I'm guessing it comes from experience. I'm guessing they just know. They're both older guys, older coaches, tons of coaching experience. Maybe they just know how to utilize certain talent and fit it into their system. But the way that they have come in and their ability to turn around a program, and then to specify it for Matt Brown, UNC isn't a powerhouse. They're not someone that like a Florida or Ohio State. But the way that they've been able to, or he's been able to take this program and turn it into one of the best teams in the ACC, it's admirable. And I think that just comes from the experience. And I think people across the country, teams across the country, should learn from that and value coaching experience and what it means to their program, because what he's done at UNC is rare. And I'm enjoy watching him play football. And I'm proud of Mac Brown and what he's been able to accomplish over there.
Yeah, it's been absolutely incredible, and I'm going to go with North Carolina in this game as well. Mac Brown has brought them literally from the basement to relevancy, and I appreciated my time with Larry Fedora, and I appreciate the time that we've gotten to speak with each other and everything. It's just what Mac's been able to do has been absolutely tremendous, and I love the fact that I got to talk with Mac when he was coming back in at ACC Media Day. So big shout out to Mac Brown, and I miss you, ACC Media Day. Normally it's like, enter my office type of thing. I like to talk to everybody that comes through there, and I look forward to doing it again and really appreciate it, and thank God for the opportunity every single chance I get. Tulsa at UCF. UCF's right outside of the top 10. Tulsa pushed Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State beat them 16-7 toward the end of the game. Tulsa has been that team that has played up against Memphis tough, played Navy tough, played, Houston tough, played all these teams tough, played them to the wire, but then just doesn't finish at the end of the game. And they play the Oklahomas and the Oklahoma States. They're not afraid to play anybody. So what are your thoughts on this? Can they spoil UCF at home, or is UCF going to get this?
UCF's at home this week, and again, UCF's a very talented football team. I don't know why people seem to want to discount UCF at this point. They live in a hotbed, recruiting hotbed. They have tons of talent, top to bottom. One thing about Tulsa, they're like a reflection of Syracuse in terms of what they do on offense. Philip Montgomery comes from that same tree as Dino Babers out of Baylor. And, it seems like their defense is taking a step up. The way they held Oklahoma State, I think it was like a 7-14 or 7-16 game where they were able to, hold that Oklahoma State offense down. And Tulsa's offense ended up being why they lost that game. In this case, I think UCF is just a better team, But Tulsa and the way that they play football, I'm telling you, that Baylor scheme where it's vertical, you're trying to put teams on their heels, you're trying to run tempo. I think teams like that. You've seen it with Syracuse and even Tulsa now, and in Texas, where that scheme is also in place. It's a system where you can put any team on the ropes because it's so jarring to a defense. But against the UCF, I think, or a team that's better than you, I think that you need to have some kind of element aiding you, whether that's home field advantage, an injury on the other side. Those, with Syracuse and Clemson, there was always a quarterback out of the game. Something's got to benefit you or lean to your advantage, and I don't think that Tulsa has that going for them this week against UCF. So I'm going to go ahead and take UCF. I like them at home. I like the amount of talent that they have and what they can do. So, I like UCF this week.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you look at Oklahoma State; they had 3 different passers in the game against Tulsa. All of the passers combined were 14 of 20 for 143 yards. None of them threw a touchdown pass, and it was running the ball with Hubbard at the end of the game. That they gave them the victory, and it was their special teams. It was their kicker. So I mean, outside of that, Oklahoma State looked ugly. Tulsa just couldn't get it done. Again, it's like a Syracuse game. When you look at Syracuse against North Carolina, where the offense wasn't doing it, but the defense was definitely there. So shout out to Tulsa, but I think UCF's going to be too much. And I love the fact that I'm on the phone with somebody else that wonders why the nation thinks it's cool to diss a team that's only won all but 4 of their games in the last, they've 36 and 4. Those include wins over the SEC. So, what do I know? I just cover UCF, and I just see that they're in the center of arguably the great state for recruiting. When they lost an entire coaching staff, they went undefeated, which is unheard of at any level of anything, pro or college or high school. So, again, what do I know outside of the facts and that UCF is a good team? But, let people still think that they're crazy. There's a reason why the Alabamas of the world won't play them in non. If they suck so much, then play them. Clemson, take Citadel off the list and play UCF. If you think they suck so much, but it's beyond me, and I know it's a conversation that we've had on the show, and it's an extensive one, but I'm just blown away by the fact that people still disrespect UCF. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm going to go with UCF in this game as well, and I respect both of the coaches. I know them both. I know Coach Montgomery and Coach Heupel, so much love to you both, and to a positive season this season. I think UCF's going to get this one. With that being said, the good man Julian Whigham has wrapped up today for this week of the Midweek Blitz with us. Julian, it's always hard. I feel like we're boys to men right now. It's so hard to say goodbye. So but I have to, and we're gonna jump into fantasy football. I appreciate you. I love you like family, and I very much thank you for everything that you have done to be a part of this show and connect with me. And I always look forward to our Wednesdays and to our other conversations that we get to have. So in the meantime, please just take care of yourself, stay well, and have that warm bed ready in the house, because I'm going to be running down to Florida at some point, and I'll let you know when I'm coming.
Hey, let me know, man. It's going to be a great time, as always, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Always, and I definitely look forward to it, man. I need to have some West Palm days. I need them. So I think I'm ready to get down there and get to the beach and get to enjoy, the scenery is what I got to. So we'll start with the dome scenery. We'll end with the West Palm scenery. You know what I'm talking about. We'll have some fun, and I'll look forward to talking with you soon.
Absolutely, man. I'll catch you later.
All right, take care. That coming from Julian Whigham once again on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We appreciate him as always. With that being said, we're going to jump into the Fantasy Football Power Hour in just a moment. So for those of you that are here on Facebook, we're going to end this video, but stay with us.